In the summer of 1943, as Europe burned beneath the relentless thunder of warplanes, Lieutenant Jack Riley soared across the French countryside in his P-51 Mustang, the Silver Ghost, the signature ace of the 8th Air Force, his smile immortalized in a grainy black and white photo, spoke of confidence and courage. But behind the glint of his goggles lay a man grappling with the weight of duty, guilt, and secrets that even war could not hide. Riley, son of an Irish immigrant and a Kansas farmer, had always felt out of place beneath the vast skies of America's Midwest. Too restless for plowshares, too hungry for purpose. The war gave him wings, and the Mustang gave him freedom, until the fateful day he vanished on a routine patrol near the Black Ridge Forest. On the edge of the Ardennes, the military report was terse, mere aircraft presumed lost in action. No distress signal received, no wreckage, no remains, just a whisper that echoed through briefing rooms and barracks. Riley had simply disappeared, and for 60 years, that whisper faded into myth, replaced by new wars, new heroes, and the relentless march of time. But the forest remembered. It always does. It was the spring of 2003 when amateur hiker and former German schoolteacher Hans Dietrich stumbled across a strange metal glint beneath a dense blanket of pine needles. Hiking through a remote section of Black Ridge, far from trails and forgotten by maps, Hans knelt before the rusted fuselage of a World War II aircraft. The insignia, though faded, was unmistakable, the white star within the blue circle of the U.S. Army Air Forces. The body of the plane was remarkably intact, the wings still attached, the tail torn off in what looked like a forced crash landing. Overgrowth and time had rendered it a mausoleum of steel and moss. Inside, the cockpit was sealed shut with vines and sediment, but a helmet rested on the seat beneath it. The skeletal remains of a pilot sat hunched forward, hands still gripping the yoke. Hans, trembling, dialed the authorities. Within days, American and German forensic teams arrived, and within weeks, dental records confirmed what few dared to hope. Lieutenant Jack Riley had been found, 60 years after vanishing without a trace. But the real story didn't end with identification. It began there. Back in Washington, the news rattled retired Colonel Thomas Calder. Now in his late 80s, Calder had flown in Riley's squadron and was one of the last to see him alive. At the press conference announcing the discovery, Calder stared into the camera with moist eyes and whispered. He knew something he wasn't supposed to. Reporters latched on to the phrase, but Calder refused to elaborate until an independent historian and war archivist, Dana Whitaker, reached out. Dana, 34, had spent her career cataloging forgotten heroes and documenting declassified files. She visited Calder in his Virginia home, where the old man, weary and fading, shared what he had held for over half a century. Riley's last mission, Calder rasped, wasn't reconnaissance. It was a handoff. Dana, intrigued, pressed for more. There was a file. Orders came directly from Eisenhower's top aides. Riley was to retrieve a courier defecting from the Axis. He had something in a briefcase, proof of a secret program in development, something called der Schatten, the Shadow, a German program, Dana asked. No, a collaboration, German scientists, American industrialists, a betrayal. Calder coughed violently, blood spotting his tissue. Dana knew time was short. Riley told me before he left that if he didn't make it back, it wasn't the Luftwaffe that got him. It was us. As Calder slipped into unconsciousness, Dana stared out the window, the sun setting over Arlington. Something dark had been buried, not just in the woods, but in history. She began digging. Declassified OSS files hinted at an operation involving joint American-German meetings in neutral Switzerland in 1943. A particular name surfaced repeatedly: Dr. Victor Arendt, a physicist associated with Nazi Germany's early jet propulsion research. Arendt had allegedly defected in early 43, seeking asylum in exchange for exposing a clandestine network that funneled science across enemy lines, bypassing official war policy. But Arendt vanished just like Riley. Dana traced the flight path Riley was scheduled to take and discovered it diverged from the routine patrol cited in military records. Her Freedom of Information Act requests led to blocked files, redacted pages, and veiled warnings from federal officials. One message arrived anonymously: stop asking questions about Black Ridge. You won't like the answers. Unfazed, Dana flew to Germany and met with Hans Dietrich, who led her through the now restricted crash site. The plane had been moved to a hangar under military custody, but Hans had taken photos, hundreds of them. One showed the cockpit with the pilot's seat pulled back, revealing something wedged behind it. Dana enhanced the image. It was a thin, rectangular object, metallic, possibly a briefcase. The official recovery report made no mention of it. Dana smuggled the photos to a retired CIA contact who confirmed her fears. That's a prototype. German code, case-armored, lead-lined, built to withstand high impact and destroy contents if tampered with. Whatever was inside, they either recovered it or made damn sure no one else ever would. She returned to D.C., only to find Calder had died 2 days prior. His personal effects, however, were mailed to Dana per his will. Inside an envelope, marked for Dana's eyes only, lay a letter. A photo of Riley with a young woman in Zurich dated 1943, and a dog tag belonging to a man named Wilhelm Strake. The letter's final line read, "They buried the truth with Jack, but truth doesn't rot like bone. Dig, Dana, dig." The name Wilhelm Strake appeared in few records, but one mentioned him as an aide to Arendt. Dana followed the lead to Zurich, where she located a small apartment still owned by the Strake family. An elderly woman, Martha Strake, invited her in. "My father loved America," Martha said in fluent English, "but he feared its power." Martha revealed her father's journals, smuggled out in pieces before his death. Within them were descriptions of Project Echo, a joint wartime experiment involving sonic weaponry and long-range propulsion capabilities decades ahead of their time. The partnership, as Martha explained, was born from a belief that the real war wasn't between nations, but ideologies. Control versus chaos. Jack Riley, Martha said, was tasked with extracting errant and the documents. But something went wrong. According to her father, an American team intercepted Riley before he could return to England. They labeled him a containment threat. His orders were burned. His name erased. The final journal entry read, "The sky took him, but it wasn't." The enemy who fired, armed with this revelation, Dana published a detailed expose titled The Vanishing Ace. How one pilot tried to stop a war. Within a war, the article sparked outrage, fascination, and demands for declassification. Conspiracy theorists and historians clashed, but amidst the noise, the Department of Defense quietly released a single-page memo admitting irregularities in Riley's final mission and honoring him posthumously with the Distinguished Service Cross. But for Dana, the truth still felt unfinished. A year later, while cataloging Riley's Mustang for a war museum, she noticed a compartment beneath the dashboard rusted but intact inside. She found a wax-sealed envelope addressed to "Whoever finds me." It contained a single note in faded ink. "I did what was right, not what I was told. If history forgets me, so be it. But if you're reading this, remember that silence isn't the absence of truth. It's its burial ground." Jack Riley. July 1943. Dana wept, not just for Jack, but for all who vanish when truth becomes inconvenient. In the years that followed, the Silver Ghost became a permanent exhibit at the National Air and Space Museum, surrounded not by glorified tales of combat, but by whispers of a deeper war of choices, sacrifices, and the thin line between loyalty and obedience. Visitors would stop and stare at Riley's smiling photo. A man who vanished, a man found, a man erased by history but restored by persistence. And somewhere in the quiet hangars of that museum, it's said that the wind sometimes whistles through the Mustang's frame, not unlike a distant voice carried from the past, a voice that simply asks, "Are you listening now?"